the bingo queen.
She is.
You crushed it. So we're doing a 2-month Get Healthy challenge, Jill, in our group.
Cool.
And every week we have a different bingo card. And so it's like, 30 minutes of meditation 3 times a week. Hey, by the way, this week's I added the burst workout. So
Nice.
Yay!
Excellent. We get credit. Yay.
I gotta go in and do the push-ups now because we did the push-ups every 3
That's
times
right.
this week.
We did.
So I gotta go add that.
Push-ups. We did 25 push-ups. So
and then I'll post it.
So Jill is here. I'm going to introduce her just a second, but I have a funny story to tell you guys, and then we can do just a quick check-in. Michelle had an emergency. Not sure if we're going to see Sid. Dottie, have you heard it all from Sid?
She just sent back hanging in there.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know what's going on there. And Lisa's working. And Carolyn's working, so she might not be able to get off. So, okay, just really quick, you guys. So I was asked to do this talk last night with the Frederick Women's Commission Frederick Women's something. I don't know. It's a government thing, but it's this organization for women in Frederick, and it's a commission. So anyway, so I'm talking, right? Yeah, you can see how much I know about this, right? So I'm asking the woman, send me information about the group and whatever. Well, I'm about to tell you how Jill and I know each other, but Jill and I, we've been working a lot on like doing these type of presentations and being a keynote speaker. So I go into my full on keynote speaking mode. I open up like, this is who I am. I have a funny story. I'm like talking about midlife and, solving our problems and getting into thrive. The T is for thought, the H is for hope, the R is for routine. I'm doing the whole thing. I'm like, and then to get the audience involved, how do you know if you have good posture, right? Put your hand on your head and then go down. You've got, they're all doing it, like the whole thing. And then I end with a big, like emotional thing, right? I have a great story and like, I kind of get a little choked up emotional. And then I stop and they're all kind of like looking at each other like, what just happened? Like, what meeting am I in? I was just supposed to tell them who I was and what the new mid is, and to listen to my podcast, and to like, they were like, what just happened? Like, so I text the woman. I was like, I am so sorry. Like, I just was like, and I was, you guys know when I can start my presentations, my energy just goes like through the roof. And that was me. And I'm talking to these poor women at the end of the day. They're like, okay, do you approve the minutes? No, I have a correction on the minutes. You know what I mean? Like one of those meetings. And then it's me, like in full Michelle cheerleader mode. Like, oh my God, full throttle. So that was my night last night. It was pretty fun.
Oh my gosh.
The good thing was it was only for 15 minutes. That's my new thing. Like, I'll just take you for 15 minutes and then I'm gone. And then like, like the Tasmanian devil. So really quick, how was your guys' week? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs medium, thumbs up? Yeah, good. We're having a good week. Okay. Thank you for doing it an extra day. I'm sorry about that. So we will start everything new starting tonight for our, so yeah, you had an extra day for the bingo. So there you go. But as I was mentioning, we are joined by our special guest, Jill. Jill and I met each other about a year ago in a group called Brand Builders. And Brand Builders it just kind of helps us focus in on who we want to serve and how we can serve people. And through that program is where I really realized that I want to serve midlife women. Like that's what my calling is. And Jill, she is the master of efficiency, organization, strategic planning, And she wants to serve people like me who can help, who can always use that, but a lot of people that can use that as well. I will read her bio because it's a fabulous bio. So if you don't mind, I'm going to just read it. As a 7-figure entrepreneur, Juliet, can I call you Jill?
Of course.
Jill has created, launched, and built 5 different businesses in 3 different industries. Wow. As the founder of FND Insurance and Financial Services, LLC, her current business is one of the elite few that was chosen in all of the state of Washington to be the preferred provider for the Washington Health Benefit Exchange and has been featured regularly in the media. Wow, Jill. That's awesome. From forensic biologist to health insurance broker and entrepreneur to international business owner, Jill Floodstrom is a specialist in helping her clients mitigate the feelings of overwhelm, chaos, and confusion when it comes to leading and growing their businesses. She's the host of the Scale Your Small Business podcast and frequently does presentations for small business organizations, as well as being on the board of directors of a national nonprofit dedicated to raising funds to support people living with life-threatening health conditions. With a relentless passion for efficiency, organization, and strategic planning, Jill has dedicated her time and her business to helping and inspiring small business owners to become more productive, more aligned, and more in control of their futures. So without any further ado, here is my good friend, Jill.
Thank you so much. Would you mind sharing the screen with me?
Not at all. So I am going to make you the host.
Okay. Perfect. So thank you. I'm so excited to be here and talk with you guys tonight. So let's just jump right in. Raise your hand if you've ever had a crazy ex-boyfriend or crazy ex-girlfriend. Okay? Anybody out there? So for all of you that are out there and don't have one, you might be the one. With all this talk about crazy exes, you guys are not going to believe this story. So when I was 19 years old, I built a house. I got to build my first house. It was such an amazing accomplishment. I was so proud of myself. When I was out at the mall one day with one of my girlfriends, we were having a super good time. I mean, you guys know how that is when you just get some time away, just gonna go shopping, wander Target, whatever those, things we used to do prior to COVID. So I got a call from my boyfriend at the time and I just ignored it. It was 2001. That's what we did. We just ignored phone calls, right? I didn't pick it up. I didn't feel like it was necessary. Didn't even think about a thing. But then a few minutes later, my phone rang and I was like, what? What do you want? But it wasn't my boyfriend. It was a fire department. You see, what had happened when I didn't answer my phone, was that my boyfriend, who was at my house making burritos. That's right. You heard me. Burritos. Left the oil on, forgot, took a phone call, and left the house. And he set my house on fire. I was shopping. My house was burning. My next door neighbor knew that the love of my life, not my boyfriend, my dog, was in the house, so she called the fire department. And by the time I got there, my house was completely in flames. Everything was ruined. All my belongings, my house was gone. And 2 days later, so was my boyfriend. Here's the thing. This is not a tragic story. Many house fires are very tragic. Mine was not. You see, I had an insurance agent who was much older, so much wiser than me, and he told me exactly what I needed to have when it came to picking the necessary policies for my house. I was 19. I said, whatever. I didn't read them. I just said, okay. I was probably paying way too much. And now thinking back, I probably wouldn't have paid that much, being more educated about the process and what those policies were. But at the time, I didn't know. So I just said, okay. I was paying for all these policies that I didn't even know that I needed at the time. But it turns out, again, he knew much better than I did. You see, when my house burned down, my policies had protected me so much that not only did I get a new house, I got a better house. You see, I got the countertops I always wanted. I got to pick out all the fancy things that I didn't get to do before because I couldn't afford it. I got the countertops. I got the fancy finishes. You guys, I even got the white picket fence. I got it all. Now, I know that not all stories end this way, but that's how mine ended because my insurance agent knew better than me. He knew what to review, he knew what to put together, and he did it. My insurance agent knew better, and he knew what I needed, even though I didn't know what I needed. He knew how to review those policies, spot any potential issues, and he knew what needed to be in place, even when I did not. You see, what I've come to realize from this seemingly at the time was a tragic event in my life was that not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear a path. And for me, it wasn't just a path to the new house, which I greatly appreciated. To me, it was a path to a new career. You see, that story, that event, that policy, and that agent is what got me into the business of insurance that I'm still in today. Now, I know what you're wondering. Jill, this is a really cool story, but what in the world does a burrito, a burning house, and an ex-boyfriend have to do with time management? Here's what I've learned in almost 20 years that have passed since the house fire. For many of us in our homes and our businesses, we never take the time to review. We do and we go, we do and we go. What we don't do is stop and say, is what we're doing working? Should we stop going? Or is what we're doing awesome and we should just keep going? We don't stop to review. We don't know what policies we have in place, and we don't know what's protecting us. But more importantly, we don't know what's potentially going to harm us. We think time management is just about doing more in less time, but I'm telling you, ladies, that's the key to burnout and overwhelm. Time management is really about doing the things that actually move you forward towards your goals and dropping everything else. And the best way that you can do this is by implementing a weekly review. This weekly review, this process, is having the space in your week to assess what's working, what's no longer working, what needs to be cleared, what do you need to bring in new, and when you do that on a regular basis, that's when you have the amazing momentum happen from week to week, when suddenly you have new opportunities pop up. It's carving out that time in your week to look at what happened in the past week, what's coming up, what do you need to set fire and let go of? What needs to burn so that we can create space for something new? I'm so excited to share this process with you because it's one of the main drivers that has helped me build and scale multiple seven-figure companies since that fateful day of the house fire. It also helps me feel sane in my personal life and prioritize what actually matters, my relationships, my health, and my family. There's a lot that goes into this review, which I'm going to share with you right now. And to make your life even easier, and make sure too that you can implement this after our call today, I've created a free weekly checklist. And if you want the downloadable version, you can just text me, actually text Michelle at 253-802-0740. And then I'll just send you everything. Super quick PDF. So let's get into this. So whether you have 5 minutes or an hour, I think it's important to do what you can in that amount of time. So you want to clean up your area. This is a big one because a lot of us have piles of stuff everywhere. I'll get to that later. So you want to clean up your area, wherever that is. Put everything in a pile. And I feel like this is the easiest way to do things is to just make piles. I'm a pile person. I don't know about you guys, but that's how I do everything. Just put everything in a pile, and then I can go through and sort those piles. Now, after you've done those two things, I think a brain dump is really, really effective. Get everything out of your mind that is taking up space. And that's pretty quick. I mean, that's just 5 minutes. So that's something, if you just have a couple minutes, because I meet with a lot of people and they're like, listen, I don't have hours to do all this stuff, but I do have 5 minutes that I could carve out. So that's something important. Now, if you've got 15 minutes, let me just move this out of the way. Okay, 15 minutes. You can clean up your area, you can put everything in a pile, you can brain dump, but then you also want to review your previous calendar, whether that's digital or physical, and any planner pages. For me, I have a daily planner, and so what I do is I go through that and look and make sure that, there's no notes that I'm forgetting. I make sure that if there's anything that needs to be scheduled, I get that taken care of. I also review my upcoming calendar. So for the the week going forward. And I probably should mention that I typically do this on Sundays. So that gives me a chance to look through the previous week of what's happened, as well as looking at the week coming up. Now, for me, I don't know if you guys are like this, but I'm really good at returning my voicemails, but I'm really bad at deleting them. So all of a sudden, I've got this huge voicemail box where I'm like, the messages have all been returned, but none of them have been deleted. So I go through and I delete all those voicemails, double check that I didn't forget anything. But I also do that with my email inbox. So I empty out my email inbox, make sure that if there's anything that needs to be unsubscribed, because I don't know about you, but I feel like there is so much junk in my inbox, and I'm like, I know that I never signed up for that. I don't know how they got my email address, but they just signed me up for the list. So every week I go back through and I just, hit the highlights of the ones that I know definitely are not ones that, I subscribed for, and I get rid of all those because, for instance, Staples, they send me like 4 emails a day. It's crazy. So get rid of them so that way I'm not keeping track of a bunch of stuff that I don't need to be. And also reply to any text messages. I don't know if you guys are guilty of this, but sometimes you can get a text message and then you get distracted and then you forget to respond back. So just reaching out, responding to those text messages and making sure that those are all responded to. So that's the 15-minute chunk. So it includes everything with the 5 minutes. Oh, and so there is the 30 minutes. Let me move you guys over. Okay. So 30 minutes is everything that is included in the 5 and 15 minutes. And then you want to take those piles that you made, those big piles that you sorted from everything that was in your space. You want to sort those piles into like categories. So if you've got a bill pile, all those bills go into the same pile. If you've got, for me, a big one is scanning, because I scan everything into my Dropbox. I'm super passionate about keeping everything digitally versus hanging onto that paper, because I noticed when the house fire happened, all those paper were just kindling. So now I do everything digital. So I have a pretty big scan pile. So just making sure that those things are in there. So just sorting into like categories. Now, the other thing too that I do is I write down my weekly to-do list. So looking back at those planner pages and also my brain dump and seeing if any of those things need to be put on my weekly to-do list. So that way I'm not forgetting anything. And there's just a feeling that when you write all that stuff down, now you could do it digitally, but for some reason I really like pen to paper. I just feel like my brain flows better. So whatever works better for you, that's an option too. Are you guys familiar with the waiting for list? Like, do you have a list of stuff that you're like, hey, I'm waiting for Bob to get back to me on that. I'm waiting for a response from, my insurance agent so I can make a decision on this life insurance policy. So I have a waiting for list. And so what that list does is it's just the things that I'm waiting for somebody to respond back to me because I can't make any decisions until then. Also, looking at the previous week's to-do list. So if there's part of that to-do list, if there are things that I was not able to get done, I want to make sure that I'm going through that list as well to make sure that nothing gets forgotten, that I'm not, all of a sudden I flip back and I'm like, oh my gosh, 3 weeks behind. Somebody reached out to me and said, hey, I was expecting this, you didn't send it. So by reviewing my previous week's to-do list, that makes a huge difference too. Yeah.
You know what? Can I just tell you guys about the waiting for list and the previous list?
Yeah.
Jill is so good at that. She has reached out to me when I've forgotten to get to her, which has helped me. So it's actually a really great, I like those lists because it will help you get your stuff done when there's people who aren't responding to you. It's fantastic. So that's my 2 cents. I hope you don't mind, Jill, but
no, not at all. And I think that's
I'm totally stealing that, by the way.
No, absolutely. No, that's why I want to send you guys this checklist, because I think it's something really important that we just forget about, or maybe you've never heard of it before, but it has really been a game changer for me in my business in regards to reaching out to clients and saying, hey, did you have a chance to review that email? So that way, hopefully they can purchase something from me. But sometimes people forget because, everybody's busy. And especially in this time there's so much stuff going on that it's just nice to be able to follow up with somebody. Now, 30 minutes versus 60 minutes. So this is where there's kind of a lot more that you can get into. Now, I have created this list because this is exactly what I do every week. Now, mine only takes me probably 30 minutes to get done, and it's just because I'm so fast at it. So if you are just starting out, give yourself grace on it, because you're not going to be able to bust through all these things maybe in an hour, because you're just kind of getting the rhythm to it. But I review my 43 folders. Have you guys ever heard of 43 folders? Are you familiar with what that is?
Yeah.
So 43 folders is 12 like hanging file folders, January through December, and then 1 through 31. And they're all in my file drawer. So let's say that I got a baby shower invitation or a wedding invitation, or I really want to attend this conference, but it's not until September of next year. I'll print that email, take that flyer, that invite, whatever it is, and I file it in, January, and then I do 1 through 31, and then February through December is behind that. So I'm always looking in the January folder as well as 1 through 31, just to see if there's anything in there that I'm like, oh, I got to make that flight reservation. I have to make sure that, I RSVP to this wedding, whatever it is. But it's just a physical way to keep track of all that paper. So that way, you're still hanging on to it, because I don't know about you, but in this like digital age, and there's certain things that I really love about being digital, but there's also something about having that tangible paper too, so that way I can go back and look and say, oh yeah, I gotta finish that. So 43 folders is awesome. That was actually, I read about that in Getting Things Done by David Allen. He's incredible. So if you want more information on how to set up that system, he is definitely the resource to go to. I also want to
What's his name? David Allen?
Yeah, it's Getting Things Done. I think he has 3 books that are kind of a combination of his system. And so Michael Hyatt has a weekly review, David Allen has a weekly review. There's one other person that I can't remember. And
I'll
so
put
a
it
lot
in
of
the
these
chat.
things are taken from all of them and kind of modified to work with my lifestyle and kind of all these different businesses that we're doing at the same time. So the Someday Maybe list, this is something that is just basically getting it out of my head. Like, someday I want to take a trip to Ireland. Now, there might be something that I find online on Pinterest and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to save that. But where do you put it? It just kind of stacks up and you're like, well, I don't want to throw it away, but I really need it. So in addition to that 43 folder system that I also have a folder that is my Someday Maybe list. So what I do is I put anything that's related to something I might want to do someday. I just put it in that folder, so that way I know that it's not taking up space in my brain, but it's safe, if that makes sense. I also want to make sure that I'm scheduling next week's weekly review. So I want to make sure that I get that on my calendar, so that way that time is sacred and no one else is going to interrupt that time. Or I open my schedule up to my clients so they can schedule themselves on my calendar. So I want to be really diligent about making sure that those times are blocked out so a client doesn't inadvertently schedule over that time, because this is kind of what helps me calm the crazy, is these weekly reviews. So I want to make sure that I'm honoring that time. I also want to update any software. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like that there is always an iPhone update, a software update, something is happening, and sometimes I just put those off, or like with my iPhone in particular, it will say that it's going to upload overnight, but then it doesn't. So it's like then I have to go manually do it. So I update any software, anything that needs to be done. And then I also empty the physical trash in my office as well as the digital trash. So I'm kind of a email digital trash hoarder, and so it's really important to remember to empty out my trash can on my Mac every week, make sure I'm getting rid of all that stuff so it's not taking up space. So now, I want to remind you too that you can text me, and then I can just email you over that worksheet, the whole worksheet, which you see on the computer screen here. That's what I'll be sending you. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely let me know. One person that I wanted to share with you guys, because I feel like she is so amazing, is Jordan Page. Do any of you guys follow her? She's incredible. She has 8 children. She's got a bunch of businesses and still finds time to work out. Now, she might only work out for 4 minutes in one day, but she carves out the time and makes working out a priority. This is what's amazing about this woman. I have 2 fur babies, and I can find every excuse in the world to not work out just because I don't feel like it. So this lady is the Octomom that you want to be, and she says that she gives herself permission to achieve her goals in the space that she has available. So she works out every day. She's just amazing. And a lot of times she works out with her kids too, which is really cute to see them like dancing around or all doing yoga together. So there is one thing that I want to ask you to do is to say, okay, next week, how much time can I realistically dedicate to doing this weekly review? And if it's 5 minutes, that's awesome. If it's an hour, awesome. But get that time blocked out on your calendar now so that it's yours and you can keep that time sacred. And keep in mind that consistency equals results. And I'll pass it back to you, Michelle, if there's questions.
No, can I have a question?
Of course.
Just because I know you.
Yep.
You have the most amazing notebook.
Yes.
I was kind of hoping you would dive into your notebook.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's, oh wait, first, can you get the phone number for Scarlett? Do you mind?
Yeah.
Oh wait, I have it. I can put it, or can you put it in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But ladies, I have to tell you, because I do everything with notebooks. Like here's my note, here's this my notes notebook. And then I have certain colors. Like my coaching notebook is pink, my podcast notebook is purple. But Jill, what you have a system with notebooks. What's your notebook system?
Do you mean my binders or like my planner?
Your plan, well, the one where the first time I met you, I was like, oh my God, that is amazing. That one.
Yeah, so that is my binder. So because we are like any classes that I attend, I don't know if you are like me, but I love to like take notes, take classes, but it's kind of hard to keep all that stuff in a place that you can find it. I tried storing it in my Dropbox because like I said, I'm a digital person, and so that worked out really well for me. But having a binder, like a 3-ring binder, and the ones that I buy are the Staples brand. I think it's called the Better Binder, and they're guaranteed. So like a lot of times with binders, they get all wretched and, they just look gross. And so these binders are pretty amazing. But what I do is every time I attend a class, I put that in one specific divider. So if Michelle called me and said, hey, what was that class from phase 1? Like, do you remember what the notes were on this thing? I can turn to that binder, pull that binder off the shelf, go to that divider, and I have all the notes from that class. And I have them for everything. So every class that I've ever taken, I've done stuff from Amy Porterfield, of course, Rory with Brand Builders. I've done some stuff with Sean Cannell. So like all kinds of different things that I just keep in a binder, and it's so handy because they all sit on the shelf. And I don't know if you're like me, but I really love like organization and the pretty. So they all sit on my shelf and they look really nice together, and I know exactly where everything is at. Because for me, I want to make sure that I'm getting that information out of my brain and it's somewhere that's quick and easy to grab, reference. Like it makes it so much easier. And so when I only had one binder, I used to travel with it to Brand Builders, but now I have 3. So probably can't travel with that.
But it also seemed like, now, do you ever use a spiral binder and then have different, can you tell us about that system? And then do you mind showing us? If it's not
I
too
can run into
much?
my office and grab them. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I'm telling you guys, this is amazing. And I'm like, you need to like patent that or whatever.
I know. My dream one day is to like
Trademark.
have my own planner company. I mean, I don't even know how you do that, something like that, but I would love to do that. I think that would be so fun. So my notebook that I have is that it's kind of a space that I brain dump all these random ideas that pop into my head in, when I'm thinking about a project. So very similar to what Michelle has, but mine are in dividers. So what I do is every single project that I have, whether it's the podcast, my new YouTube channel, social media, day-to-day stuff, or with my other businesses too. So each business has a notebook, and then within that notebook there's dividers in each one. And I put basically anything to do with that business or that idea, everything goes into that notebook. So that way I know where all the ideas are. There's never like, I'm like, oh, what was that one thing I was going to do? Or that one person that I was going to interview on my podcast. It's all there. And it's in one space, one notebook. And I have one for each year too. So I always know that, if it was in 2020, whatever I attended, it was specifically in that notebook. Is that the one that you're talking about, Michelle?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's so, for instance, Dottie, do you mind if I use you as an example? Dottie has her own business. She
Okay.
has a business, 31 party bags. I can't remember, but
31.
31 gifts.
Yeah. They have the best bags.
So, and she has an office. And so she has a lot of different moving parts to her business. And then she's also a nurse on top of that, and has all of that stuff with work. So how best can she help organize, so like I obviously everything that you said today, but how best can you organize for her business to all stay together? Is that kind of like what you think, Dottie? Because I know that was one of the things, is getting overwhelmed with papers and orders and all of that
I
stuff.
definitely have piles upon piles. I call them loose ends when I'm waiting for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I have lots of little books like this. This is my crime junkie one. But
I love it.
And then I just feel like I'm always, for somebody who sells organization stuff, I am very unorganized with stuff. So my thought was minimalizing things, like really trying to get rid of things that we don't need. But my husband said we couldn't throw our kitchen table out, so had to keep it. But yeah.
I would think so. For me, one thing that I would focus on is all the little notebooks that you have, that all your different ideas are. Do you, like, when you write on a page, do you write any and everything, or do you write like, okay, I have these 16 orders, flip to the next page, I want to do these 17 things, flip to the next page? Or is it all completely together on one page?
It's all together. There might be a napkin shoved in there.
Yep. Okay.
Somebody else's business card. Yeah.
Are you a digital person or are you a paper person?
I'm a paper person.
Okay. So what I would do is I would kind of think of what is the umbrella? Like what are so we have like orders is a big one, right?
Mm-hmm.
What other sections are primarily what happens in your business? So you have orders, you have ideas. Do you have?
I have team.
Okay.
I have fundraisers. I have motivational speaking, leader seminars, things like that encompass into my nursing life too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of people might find that, when you wear more than one hat, like you have multiple businesses. Michelle, you have multiple businesses. Scarlett, I can't even tell you what she does. She's just from one meeting all darn day. And Julie, I'm not really sure. I don't think that you work outside the home, but being in the home is a work in progress too, right? So
she organizes everything.
Right, you know what I mean? So we always have these great ideas of starting a binder system or the word,
Yeah.
It all somehow just falls through the wayside.
Absolutely. So I think it depends too. So you could do two different things. If you are like a filing person, because here's the thing, you have to make it easy for you and you have to make it something that you want to do. So if you are a binder person, if you are a file, like a hanging file folder person, like whatever that is, or if you're a digital person, whatever that is, I think it's important to figure that out. Because what you could do is you could create your 43 folders. So you know, okay, orders have to be placed on Tuesday the 30th. So you put all those orders in there. Okay, we have a speaking engagement on this day. So you put all your notes, stapled together in that folder. Or what you could do too is behind those 43 folders, you could say, all right, I'm going to put these big things like my leadership. So I want to have one hanging file folder for like your team, and then you want to have little file folders for each different person that's on your team, things that you need to follow up with them, things like that. So that's kind of an idea of like hanging file folder system. Binder system, kind of the same thing. Like you're gonna have, I like rainbow is my favorite color. That's just like me. So I would say like my red binder is my team, my orange binder is my orders, my yellow binder, and then from there kind of just go down, like make sure that it's categorized even further. So that way you know exactly where things are at. From a digital standpoint, I love Evernote because the great thing about Evernote is they have an app where you literally can take a picture of your notebook and you just snap a picture and then it saves it. And what's cool is that if you buy the upgraded version, which I think is like $12, like it's not expensive at all, is it starts to learn your handwriting. So if you're like, okay, I have these 16 notebooks over here, I don't want to go through them, but I don't, they're taking up a ton of space and I don't look at them every day. I would put those all into Evernote and then you can tag them. It'll learn your handwriting so you can search by, whatever you're looking at. So if you're looking for, seminar from January of 1998, like it will read your handwriting and you can search for that and it'll bring up all your notes. So that's another option too. If you're like, this is a pile of stuff that I'm not going to look at, but I don't want to get rid of because there's some gems in there. I feel like when we go back and we look at all of our old notebooks, you're like, there's some good stuff. I was really thinking about some good stuff, but it's just not the right time right now. So those are a couple different options that you can do to, just minimize the paper, but also have it in an organized place because I'm a piler like you. Like that's what I like, piles. Mm-hmm. But those are a couple different ways that I have made it easier on myself to find things when I need it.
Yeah, I bought a bunch of binders.
Oh, yeah?
They're there, and all the papers are in the bin.
Yep.
And my little elf is going to come put them all in the binder.
That's like my scanning elf. My scanning elf has not shown up lately. So I'm like, hello, my scanning pal's getting kind of high. When are you coming back?
Yeah. Well, I have two little elves. I wish they would help me.
Well, and one thing too that you can do to get through that, I think it's really one thing that's really helped me because my brain is so all over the place, undiagnosed ADD squirrel, like I can get distracted by shiny stuff, is using a timer. And so I'll just say, okay, set my timer for 5 minutes. And I'm going to go through these 4 pages of stuff. I'm going to punch them. I'm going to file them. I'm going to scan them, whatever, whichever way you decide to go. And then I find that after 5 minutes, I kind of get in the groove and I'm like, well, I did those 10 papers. I might as well do the other 15, and so it's just setting that time aside, knowing that this is the time that I can do those things, but also making it enjoyable. Grab your favorite beverage, whatever, find a comfy chair, put your slippers on, make it enjoyable, because I think a lot of that scanning, filing, blah, it's kind of a tedious thing. So when you make it fun and make it enjoyable, it makes it easier for you to want to go back and do it. And on that same token, if you do it for 5 minutes and you're like, blah, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore, then just be done. Like, give yourself the grace to be like, you know what? I'm just going to do 5 minutes every day, and eventually it'll get taken care of.
Yeah, I think the ultimate goal here, or for a lot of people, is it's the 1 minute rule, right?
Yeah.
Hear that? Like, take the 1 minute to do what needs to be done, and don't say, I'll come back and do it later, because then you're going to be annoyed, So I said that to my kids, my son tonight. I said, just hang up your jacket. Like, just do it. Let's all get in the habit of doing these little things. Same thing with the mail. you know, the mail comes in and you're just like all over the place. So
Mhm.
a file system, what needs to be addressed now, later, trash,
Yep.
like,
Totally.
you know,
I
so
think it's those little things every day that over time will make a huge difference. Huge
right.
difference.
Right. You're either going to feel good about it at the end of the week or you're going to be like, oh my God, I did it again.
Right.
And now I'm in the, oh my God, I did it again.
And that's part of too, like when you create that weekly review, like I said, there's a bunch of different people that have, created it, adjusted it. I mean, we all tweak things to make them work for us. But I think the important thing about that is give yourself some extra time. Work that into your weekly review and say, okay, this weekly review, I'm going to go through that pile of mail. I'm going to get out my fancy, those letter openers, like the really pretty ones? Sounds so goofy. I bought myself a really pretty letter opener. Oh my gosh, now I love opening the mail. I'm like, what else can I open? Because I made it, fun and enjoyable versus like trying to slide my finger in the envelope and giving myself a paper cut and, that kind of stuff. So I think it's those little tweaks that you can make it enjoyable, and then it just makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. I feel like we have a lot in common because I definitely use timer. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I want to get the bathroom cleaned in 10 minutes. So I set the timer 10 minutes. Because you go in down the rabbit holes. I find a magazine in there. I say, oh,
I might as
magazine.
well
And
clean
then you
that. I
forget.
should probably do the mirror too. Oh, I should probably mop the floor. Oh, I'll go into the hallway. And then pretty soon you're like, oh my gosh, half an hour later. Yeah,
Right. Yep.
definitely.
Oh my gosh. So I mean, I hate to ask you, but do you mind grabbing one of those, your binder and grabbing one and that because it's really impressive, you guys. I mean,
Yeah, let me go grab it. I'll be right back.
okay, that is awesome. Julie, you kind of are on top of organization, right? I mean, is that like your thing? I can't hear you. Oh no. Are you muted? Oh yeah,
You're
you're
I
muted.
was muted. Yeah, sorry. It's funny because when I was working out, when was working at Bain, I was an like executive assistant. So I was very organized, and I'm a paper person. So the thing that worked the best for me was like hanging old school, but it's the hanging file folders.
Mhm.
wow.
And I would have my to-do list, and then I'd have my in and out bin. And so that's how I was organized, and I actually did it very well. But now at home, I don't have like my own space. The kitchen counter is where I work. So, and I have like a junk drawer. I think I've talked to you about that before, but, so I have piles, like I have folders, like manila folders, different colors. And I just have piles, and I make written lists. I do have a to-do list on my phone, but I kind of like go back and forth,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm pretty organized.
My problem is I find so many people that I feel like I connect with, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do their system. Oh, I'm going to do their system. Wait, no, this one's better. So then I buy all this stuff.
What's that? What's that one? What's that one, Scarlett? Oh, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I had to unmute. This is my elephant book. So basically it doesn't have the days of the week, but you can tab it yourself. And then it's got a calendar for the pages, and then it's got a daily page, and then you've got your notes back here. So I put all my to-dos on my daily pages, and then I have my notes back here, and I have that and pieces of paper that I've stuck in there too. That's my physical therapy, but I check off when I'm done. So that's important to me to check off, because that way I feel like I've done something, like exercise, meditate.
See, my problem is that I'm constantly like I'm a writer. Like every, like I've written down, like for instance, this is perfect. So I have a mindset coach, you guys, that I listen to every Wednesday at 9 a.m. And it is fabulous. I mean, it's so great. I just started doing it a couple weeks ago, and I cannot even begin to tell you how fabulous it is. But these are the notes, which, by the way, if you guys want to know what the mantra is for this week, it's right here. I wrote it down here. So that's the thing is like, I figured out, oh, what's the mantra? So I write it. I didn't write it in the notes down here because I found the mantra. And because I found the mantra, I had a notebook open. So it's like, okay, I'm going to write it on top so I'll be able to find it. But I'm telling you, if I set this notebook down and I have other notebooks, I'll be like, where did I write the mantra for this? Where's the mantra? Which, by the way, do you guys want to know what the mantra is?
Yeah.
And it's so good this week that I am asking if you could please say it every morning this week. Please, please, please. And this, you guys have heard it before. It's not earth shattering, but I just feel moved. Everything is always happening in my favor. Everything that is happening is in my favor. So I'm really excited about that. But anyway, so that's my problem, Jill. And maybe I need this Evernote because I have notes everywhere, like no. And so I went to the color system. So at least I know if I see a purple notebook, I know that's my podcast notebook. And then if I see a pink notebook, I know that's my coaching notebook. But the other question I have for you is, what do you do with the paper that you have no idea what to do with? It doesn't fall into a category.
Make a file.
Yeah. Decide, do I really need it? And more importantly, some of those types of things, I just scan them and put them in my Dropbox. I have, speaking of hoarding things, I have a massive Dropbox that has just some random things. The main thing that you want to be sure is how you label it, because I feel like I label things and then I'm like, what did I label that as? You know, you think you're so smart and you're like, yeah, I'm totally going to remember this. But then I don't. And then I'm trying to search in my Dropbox. I'm like, what the heck did I label that as? So you just want to be really cognizant of what you're labeling it. So that way you're like, okay, when I go search for this, what am I going to call it? But I scan it all. Just in case.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because sometimes, I'll go back and I'll be like, oh, I know I wrote that down somewhere. Where did I put it? And I really want to know, what it was. I do this a lot with like old journals, old planner pages, things like that. Even though I'm doing that manually every day, like writing down my to-do list and things like that, I'm scanning those into Evernote because it's a good place to keep all that stuff. So I kind of do both.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I also will find quotes that I love, and I'll be like, where can I write that down?
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, where did I write that down?
There's something too that you could do depending on where you like to keep that stuff. So I have something in my email called a swipe file. So I'm swiping it off the internet. So I'll like take a screenshot. I'm a Mac person, so I can do I think it's like Control-Shift-4, and that'll take a screenshot of just something specific, and then I can just dump that into my swipe file. And I have my emails are organized a little bit differently than just like inbox and delete. And so swipe file is one of the big ones that I use. So that way, if I see something cute like that, or a picture, or I do it a lot with infographics too, because when I'm designing my slides or things like that, I'm like, oh, that looks so cute, but I need to make it like my colors, my thing. And so I'll put it in my swipe file just so I know it's safe and it's sitting in there waiting for me.
And that's you type folder. In swipe file folder in your email.
Yeah. So like, I use Gmail. So you know how you can create different folders to organize.
Mm-hmm.
I just make one for swipe file.
Okay.
And then I just tuck everything in there and label it, if it's I tend to categorize like my quotes and stuff for like social media or things like that by the month. So if it's like a thankful quote, I'll be like, oh, that would be perfect in November. So I'll like label it as that just so I can find it faster.
That's great.
But if you do it on, like a lot of folks do it on Pinterest, and you can create like boards, but keep it hidden so that way, like, if you guys saw my Pinterest board, you'd be like, oh, that looks so organized and pretty. But then if you saw my boards that were hidden, you'd be like, whew, that's a hot mess in there. But it's just because I have like quotes for January, quotes for February, quotes for March, you know, and I'm just saving all those on Pinterest boards too. So depending on where you're finding your information at, a couple different ways to save it.
That's awesome. Okay, so can we see these books?
Yeah, so so this is my binder. This is I think this guy's a 2-incher. It's pretty big. Oh, it says right there. Look at that. I haven't even taken the spine off. So basically this just has everything that I've ever done with brand builders. So there's 2 of these, and they're all done by like divider. So I know that if I have questions on podcast power, or maybe it's an email that I got from my coach, those are all in there by date order too. So everything is in there in regards to brand builders. So like I just had, Michelle, you know Mike. Mike just called me the other day and was like, hey, do you remember this one thing from phase 1? And I was like, yeah, let me check my binder. You know, so I have that binder. Now I have this binder, which is a lot smaller. And this one is just for Keynote stuff. So this is all my Keynote notes. This is the classes that we've taken about how to like be a better keynoter. This is a call that I did with one of my coaches, and what's cool about this call is that I had it transcribed. So what that means is that somebody went through, typed it all up, and then they even put timestamps on it. So that way I know if there's something that, you know, like Michelle calls me up and she's like, hey, I want you to do a motivational speech on weekly review, for example. Well, then I can go back and be like, okay, here's where we talked about this. Here's some nuggets. I want to make sure from that call that I put that in there. So this one's
so I think you guys should all do that for our weekly meetings, because you know that you're going to be going back and be like, oh, Michelle's golden nuggets, I gotta go.
Definitely have to do that. Now this one is my planner, so this is like my daily to do. Because I have a daily planner page. I'm trying to find one that isn't all written all over. This one's kind of a good one. So this one shows, it has my tasks, it has the calendar, my top 3, and then just a page for notes because I'm a scribbler. So I have really pretty handwriting on this side, and then I have really messy handwriting on this side. So I'm just scribbling throughout, and then also too, what I keep in here that so I have different dividers, of course, based off of this, but something that you guys might like to see is, like, I have, like, my morning affirmations in here. So, like, this just shows, like, this is my evening affirmations. This is our brand builders affirmations that we talk about when we're building our businesses, and, you know, just to keep us making sure that we remember as mission-driven messengers that people need to hear what we're talking about, because you guys know it's easy to get discouraged and be like, is anybody paying attention? Is this even worth it? And so this really like helps ground me and be like, yes, people are listening. You can't see it yet, but it's happening. So I just keep a bunch of different stuff in there. I have, you know, just plain note pages, and I have my note pages categorized by what they are. So like these ones that say don't quit your daydream, those are specifically for like any classes that I take that, you know, I want to make sure that I'm taking note from that specific class. Then I have these, what's it called? Dot grid? I have these dot grid pages that are specifically for, like, if I'm sketching out a design, I send my design team, like, what I like to call chicken scratch. So, because they're always like, well, can you just, like, pencil it out? And I'm like, it's gonna look horrible. Like, you're not even gonna be able to tell what I want you to draw. But they are very good at figuring out from my chicken scratch, like, what I want. So I use that for just jotting things down if I see something like when Michelle does a presentation and I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be so cute. I want to copy that. So I'll just like scribble down some notes of kind of one thing that I want to keep. So this is my brain. I take this with me everywhere. It never leaves my side. Anything that I think of, I write it down right away because I can't trust my brain because there's just too much going on. I mean, I feel like that happens to everybody. You just have a lot going on, and I don't want to miss anything. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to write it on the back of an envelope, on a sticky note, on a random piece of paper because I'll lose it, or
Yeah.
the sticky will unstick, and then that, pearl of wisdom that was on that sticky note is now gone.
Right.
So everything goes in this planner, and then what I do is I'll take a picture of it with my camera on Evernote, and then I will scan it into Evernote. So that way I don't feel the need to keep all these planner pages, because this is just a quarter and it's stuffed. So I want to make sure I'm clearing that out and making room for new stuff.
That's awesome. Do you guys have any other questions? Do you have any questions about Evernote? Or so it's evernote.com or Evernote app? Is that what you were saying?
I think it's just Evernote. If you do it from your desktop, I think it's just evernote.com, but they have an app.
Okay.
They also have a special notebook, like they have Evernote sticky notes. So you can say like, these pink sticky notes are for this project, yellow sticky notes are for this. And then they have a notebook that is specifically designed with stickers that you can put the stickers in, and then you can scan it into Evernote too. It's pretty cool.
That is awesome. Do you guys have any questions, any more thoughts on like figuring out kids stuff? Or I know we have a minute left, but do you guys need anything about organizing your kids? Or I didn't even get into that. Keeping things straight. Well,
I think the main thing with kids, just really quickly, is just show them what you're doing. Show them by example. They're so smart. Setting those good habits, especially like with a lot of like virtual classes that are happening right now. Let them, sort out an organizational system that works for them, because everybody's different.
Yes, that's true. That is true. My two kids are different on how they're staying on top of what's due and what's not due. Oh my Lord. Well, Jill, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It was so nice to meet all of you.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh,
Very nice to meet you.
so
Nice to meet you too. As I tried 5 times to say it. Get the mute off.
well, you know what I think, just in closing, I think my biggest takeaway is setting aside every week at least 5 minutes, and 10 minutes and doing that and having it the same time and consistency. And I think that will, go a long way. Especially because dumping your trash in your email, right? Because it's so easy to lose the really important emails that you need to return. I'm starting to get a lot more, and then I'll be like, and then I feel bad because it's been a couple days since, someone sent an email, and then but this has been awesome, Jill. Thank you. All right, ladies, have an awesome week. And Julie and Scarlett, I'll see you Friday morning. Dottie, any chance to get you there? Or are you out the door by then?
It depends, but I'm working on it. I set the alarm, but then I hit snooze a couple times one day.
I am telling you, come on Friday. I
have to get myself back up in gear.
We have so much fun, and it goes like that. It's so fast.
Getting out of bed is the hardest part.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah. Doing it.
Well, it's going to be hard on Friday. I'm usually up anyhow on the other days, but Friday's my day off. So I'm going to have fun.
You need that day off, Scarlett.
It's okay.
You need
I'm going to get up to work out so I can use some stuff. Get me started.
Yeah.
All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much. Have a
good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good week.